No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host, Swamp Swimmer, and with me as always, the Boris to my Natasha, Vespacian.
Hi everybody. Man, there's just an endless quantity of these. I love it. How you doing?
Good. So, the what is it? Beta 2 2023 balance patch. Oh god, that's a lot of wordy. And there's two batches of the beta 2. It's all coming out right now. There's a lot of changes. If you guys are interested in the actual specifics of the changes, check out our review videos with me and our good friend Henry. But Vespacian, I just want to get your ballpark, no specifics, but what do you think about the balance of the armies overall in 2023?
Yeah, it's a tough one because this balance patch has been pretty substantive, and we also have a number of books in alpha, beta, and so it's lab books, that is. So I think the meta has really shifted, and it's going to take probably longer than average to settle this year, I would think. Some pretty big changes that affect multiple army books, like the Druidism changes, right? I think that there's some big winners from that, and then I think that what's kind of interesting is going into the balance patch. I think there was a fairly clear, based on a year of data, fairly clear sort of like top, middle, and bottom tier. But because of how big the balance patch was, there was I think that kind of shuffled and mixed around quite a bit. So it'd be really interesting to see where we're at, sort of like ETC, post ETC, and where the data is by then, because I think this year's been a pretty big change. So we'll see what happens.
No, I have to agree. Actually, I think many of the non-LAB books, there's been tweaking that I think are really going good places. Like, and my best example is the steam tank with Empire Sonstal. They nerfed it way too hard. Now they're bringing it back. They're finding a middle ground where it's not going to be auto-include in every army like it was. So I'm pleased with those changes. I think there's some big red spots for me that weren't addressed personally. As viewers of the channel probably know, I still freaking dread Elf Core. I hate him with a passion. They didn't really address that, but I don't know. Overall, I'm just pleased of where the army's the game's going in general, and B, I'm just happy to be receiving new content, new changes, a steady flow of changes to the game. It's not stagnant. I mean, we might be verging on too many changes, but in my book, we're not there yet. And my one request, and someone messaging me in one of my other videos, I mentioned this in the review of the balance patch changes. I really want to see some love given to the supplemental books. I want them to be balanced also. I think they're unique and different and interesting armies that I want to see on the tournament scene. I want to see people collecting and making new paint jobs and models for in armies. So I really want to see some love for the supplemental books. That's my one request moving forward. But someone in the comments did say they're working on them now, but who knows? I'm not in the inner circle. I don't know.
Yeah, I think my one additional request would be, I think I mentioned this in a past video maybe, I'd love to see just 3 more tournament ready objectives.
Yep.
I think that
I can get on board with that.
6 rinse and repeat is getting a little old, and I would love to see 9, just for you could go to 2 tournaments and play almost entirely different objectives. I think that'd be really cool.
I can totally get on board with that. I think that's it's a tall design request, like, because secondary objectives could really change the game completely depending on how they design it. So I think it's a tall order, but I think they can do it, and I would love to see that. Love it. But hey, we're here to talk about a battle report, and guess what? We are into round 1 of the 2023 North American Masters. Vespacian is in. Oh, I'm so stoked for these games. I'm so stoked for these games. This is some real hardcore 9th Age going on now. Serious business. And you get paired in round 1 into a pretty dirty Vermin Swarm book, our list.
Yeah.
With Black Lancer, and it's Dawn Assault Breakthrough. Black Lancer is, gosh, I forgot his name, and I feel horrible for saying that, but he's from Canada, right? Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Ryan, I apologize, but he's an awesome guy too. So I was excited for you to play him.
Nice dude. Yeah.
Let's go over your list. Of course, you're bringing the Sylvan Elves. Just dive into it. Tell me about your list.
Yeah, so it's kind of an iteration on what I've been playing for most of the year. I've got the Avatar, Entangling Vines. I've got a couple of shamans, one on Master and Cosmology, and one on Shamanism, with the 2 new bows, which had a brief moment in the sun, but have now been both nerfed in multiple ways. Mm-hmm. The Battle Center Bear Blade Dancer was something that I tried new after NATC and was really enjoying it in my practice games. The core is kind of similar to what I've been playing, but now you've got the Blade Dancer unit, 2 small packs of Wild Huntsman for some kind of flanking zoning threats, and then not changed in my list for a while now, the 2 units of Pathfinders, which have taken a pretty substantive nerf.
They have. Well, they were.
Yeah,
it seems like they were auto include in Sylvan Elf lists of recent.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think Dan T, put it that there's sort of inflection points in the in shooting, and I think that 20 Pathfinders kind of gets up above a certain threshold of shooting output that is pretty important. So yeah, it's very shooty, lots of range damage, but a couple of pretty reasonable combat threats that can deal with things that are tough for the list, like fast moving monsters on the flanks, or really nails combat characters basically. So
yeah, makes sense. And you used to have a 3rd unit of shooting, or I'm sorry, a 4th beyond the archers from core and the 2 units of Pathfinders. Right. Yeah. You either had sentinels or the guys on horses with the thorns, the thrown thorn things.
Yeah, the Briar Maidens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some sacrifices that I had to make for the Blade Dancers, basically, to fit them in. They take up sort of extra space in that. Yeah.
All right, very good. Let's move on to Black Lancers. Vermin Swarm. Ugh. All right, he's got the Swarm Priest on the Whispering Bell, Adept on Witchcraft with a Binding Scroll, Obsidian Rock, and he's part of the Holy Triumvirate.
Yeah.
Swarm Priest Adept on Thaumaturgy with Book of Mastery, of Arcane Mastery, part of the Holy Triumvirate. Then a Vermin Senator, who's his general on a Senatorial litter with the Storm Rocket, the Orb of Atius, which I don't know what that is, and the Cowl of the Apostate, which makes him the 3rd member of the Holy Triumvirate.
I can never remember which one does which, but I think the Orb is the one that extends the range.
Oh, his bubble. Okay.
I think that's right, yeah.
I know the Cowl for sure does he gives him Holy Triumvirate, so he's the 3rd member. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a House Prefect with a Deep Fire Thrower and an Orator's Toga. He's got another House Prefect with a pistol, and this is the Darkstone Generator and the Stygian Overseer. I don't know what any of that stuff does. He's got a big block of Black Fur Veterans with Eagle Standard, big block of Legionnaires, another big block of Legionnaires, a 3rd block of Slaves, then out of core, the big Black Fur Veterans, 43 of them, the Praetorians with Eagle Standard, Shadowfur Stalkers, lots of shooting, rotary guns, canisters, and deep fire throwers, a moss rifle, and an earth breaker.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, that's a lot of shooting coming at you.
Yeah, it's a lot of shooting. He's also got the 4 tunnel markers that he can move and blow up. So 4 mobile, controllable mini comets that he can put out, sort of wherever he wants. He's got he's got a very solid phase that has got a good mix of anti-shooting, so stops my shooting, and then also threatening spells like comet and things like that can be really tough for me. Yeah, it's I think if I recall correctly, he's also got the combo where that black for veteran unit is lexes, so striking at agility and re-rolling ones or battle focus or whatever it is, like something where they can like do better but they hurt themselves. So that unit is pretty tough to go through. So yeah, I had made some kind of intentional adjustments to the list. The Cosmo Master, the Blade Dancers were really the Shamanism apprentice with the book, so that I could get access to sort of really kind of mean combination of spells to fight Vermin Swarm.
Yeah.
But this one, the tunnel markers thing especially, is just absolutely miserable for my list. And then to make matters worse, this is breakthrough. So it would be so the tunnel markers become hyper relevant because essentially it makes it that much harder for me to get across the board.
And that's exactly what you said in this little blurb about your matchup here, and you put it as an orange, which I completely agree with.
Yeah, I was I think there's a couple of things that could have gone more my way, like if it was a breakthrough, for example, or a couple of other things, but ultimately there were not many lists that I thought were sort of just like on paper an orange for me, but this list outshoots and outfights me. I basically kind of have to hope for some breaks, basically, to try to win this game. So tough first round draw, random draw, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's talk about deployment. Take it away.
Yeah. So we were, I think it was Dawn Assault, and I actually think, unfortunately, I've started my movement a little bit here, but you can see on my side I've got spears, pair weapon, guard, pathfinders, the fast cab huntsman, or sorry, the fast cab heath riders, the other paired weapon unit, the avatar, and then the blade dancers in front there, and then the big archer unit with my 2 mages in it, and then the 2 huntsmen on the right. Basically what I was thinking was he's got to come towards me, right? And I believe I dropped for first. Yeah, I did. He's got to come towards me, so I wanted to try to draw him towards me, put the forest right there, and basically have a couple of scoring units that can kind of do the end run around the impassable and try to sneak into his deployment zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then on his side, left to right, he's got the Earthbreaker. He's got the nasty Praetorians, the more elite ones. He's got the cannon. He's got the Legionnaires with basically all the characters in it except for the Lightning Reflexes guy who's over in the Praetorians.
Mm-hmm.
He's got all of his weapons teams in the ruins there. He's got his slaves kind of out wide in the middle, and then he's got his other Bloodfur, his other Legionnaires, and his stalkers are ambushing over off the table.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, over there.
So I basically I wanted to distract him. 2 units of huntsmen in your flank is tough even for big rat units, so basically just wanted to pull them out wide, and just make it harder for him to sweep towards the center. Otherwise, just kind of shuffled around a little bit, essentially. So I think what's the next picture we've got?
This is top of one movement.
Yeah, so here's me finishing up my movement. So you can see I've started to make that end run with the spears. Pathfinders have kind of adjusted. And basically, based on the way that he was set up, he had made it impossible for me to get a hold of his weapons team. So I decided I just unload everything I had at the big unit of Praetorians that was kind of defending a key point right there. Yeah, exactly. And I put the avatar up because I need him to start stepping on those tunnel markers so they can't move towards me and start blowing up midst of my lines, basically.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, so after your shooting, it looks like you do some work to this Praetorian unit.
Yeah, he let through. He let through Unity, and between that and my shooting, I did actually quite a lot of work on that unit. He saved his dice to stop Chilling Howl. And then I think you can see the result of, I think this is after his shooting because you can see what happened to my archers there. Yeah.
And this core unit here.
Yeah, so I think this is in my movement phase. Yeah, so his turn one shooting is super strong. He hits, I think this was like with one half of one weapons team, like with his 3 deep fire throwers, he kills like half of my archer unit. And then with I think Hand of Heaven and his cannon, he does 4 wounds to the avatar. And blows up one of his tunnels and does some more damage, or maybe it was the storm rocket as well. But he just does an absolute mega ton of work on me with that first shooting phase. And then we're into my turn, and so this is top of 2. So excited about my about having Chilling Howl, especially after that first shooting phase.
Yeah.
And so I, in my second magic phase, I 4 dice cast big Chilling Howl on him, and I blow my mage up.
But at least that was the apprentice, right? That was the apprentice.
Yeah. So fortunately, it wasn't the Cosmo Master, but obviously Chilling Howl, is a huge deal in this matchup, and I've lost it in the top of 2. So on the plus side, I get the benefit of it for 1 round and an important round. So that was a real positive. But on the downside, it was then he stops everything else. So that was a tough loss early, especially after that turn 1 shooting phase.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And well, in bottom of 1, the only movement he did was he pushed up these slaves here, right?
Yeah, and he brought that 3 deep fire throwers in range of my archers and did all that damage from across the board, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
You can see I brought my huntsman around further, basically, continuing to make it a choice for him what he does over on that right-hand side.
All right, next image is top of 3 movement.
Yeah, so I think I missed his, but he didn't do too much. Basically, he decides he's had it with my huntsman over there, and he's gonna move forward with his blood fur or black fur, whatever, on the right. He leaves a legionnaire unit to give me some trouble. He brings on his whatever those guys are.
Yeah.
And he decides to tunnel the Earthbreaker and bring it in later. So that's off the board right now, but it'll come back. So now you can see that I have decided that I need to evacuate the avatar, basically, because now he's down to just 1 or 2 wounds left. He's not really much use, but I have been able to start moving my scoring units around the impassable, and as of right now, I feel like I could have a good shot at pushing or winning the objective, because he's moving forward quite slowly otherwise.
Yeah.
And I have brought forward the blade dancers kind of to threaten, but still you can kind of barely see it, but he still has those tunnel markers. Like there's one
one here
in the middle. So those are really causing me a lot of trouble because I can't advance basically. And so that's about it. I put the huntsman up. Now for the life of me, I can't really see exactly why, or sorry, the heath hunters.
Oh.
Can't really see exactly why I felt it was that important, but maybe I was just trying to kind of close off board space or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then the huntsman, I gave him, I think like a 10 or now he's on a hill, but I gave him like a 10 or an 11 charge into the huntsman, because I figured if he goes for it and fails it, I could probably pick up that unit. But so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Let's see here. This is 5, the bottom of 4 movement.
Okay. So at this point he goes for that 10 or 11 rerollable and he makes it over there, which is fine because honestly, yeah, it's okay. I figured the downside was that unit can't score the objective basically, so I wasn't too stressed by this. One thing that's a little confusing, you see where those slaves are? Basically, basically he popped his Earthbreaker up in the middle of the board, and I shot it off with the Pathfinders and the Bolt Thrower Bow.
Okay.
And it panicked the slaves, and they ran that way.
Oh, jeez.
You can see that he kind of caught wind of my trick with the spearmen over on the left, and his greatly depleted blood fur have turned that way to prevent me from making that end run. And you can see that he just continues to do, like, I've one of the Pathfinder units is down to 5 guys. My little Forest Guard units are getting depleted.
Yeah.
I'm down to just 1 rank of Blade Dancers, and I lost my avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just that I kept trying to heal him, and he kept prioritizing stopping it. And with just 1 or 2 wounds left, with Hand of Heaven, the cannon, and the storm rocket, like there wasn't going to be a way to keep him alive. I have been able to do quite a bit of work, as you can't really see too many of those weapons teams left. Essentially what happened was every turn he'd kind of move 1 up, blast the snot out of something, and then I would return fire and pretty much take it off at that point. So I think he's down to just 1 unit that's a little hard to see because it's like behind the bell or something. But
yeah, somewhere.
Maybe it's already dead, but it's suffice it to say that was kind of the sequence of events there. And he's making a big push with his other black fur unit to get across and into my deployment zone. So
okay, so in theory, you ran into a big roadblock of this, the Praetorian on the left.
Yeah, but I do have that 1 untouched Forest Guard unit that's heading the other way, so I'm kind of pinchering him around there. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, gotcha. Let's see here. This is end of game.
Yeah. So basically, if you go back to the last one, I think it's kind of helpful. So basically, you can see he's chaffed my Blade Dancers there with one. He's using those insanely cheap little characters as basically backup chaff now that their usefulness has gone down. Yeah. So he does that, but I think a kind of a series of minor mistakes that added up to a big mistake in the last couple of turns for my opponent. He does that chaff there, but he gives me the opportunity to charge that guy with my Forest Guard instead of the Blade Dancers, which is actually kind of nice because from a spacing perspective, I would not have been able to squeeze past that guy if I just moved the Forest Guard normally. But now with the charge, I can take advantage of getting within an inch of stuff right in combat, and I'm able to kind of get almost like a magical move with those Forest Guard over into that guy. Yeah. Which then sets me up, if you advance to the next one, it sets me up for this little, the very finest of Ninth Age wargaming. It sets me up for this opportunity to, he made it, the second small mistake was that he put that next cheap little character thinking it was in my way so that I couldn't charge him and then overrun into his deployment zone, basically. But he didn't, and I'm not actually even sure that he could have, but he wasn't able to put him in such a way that it prevented me from doing this conga line and then basically advancing the 5 inches into his deployment zone. And Kenyon, we're talking about, I think it was like a difference of about a half of an inch of being able to make it in, essentially.
Yeah.
So not especially proud of this move, but you know, admittedly, I think, you know, this Vermin Swarm list is probably 500 points under costed. So I'll take what I can get. And,
so wait. What happened to the Praetorian unit that was coming around the back of this Impassable?
Basically, you can see that I moved all of my Pathfinders over there and vaporized it.
Wow. Okay. Pathfinders are amazing.
So I got that unit. It may have been that he had like 4 or 5 guys left and failed to panic, but he was out of the bubble at that point. So that was the risk that he took by going over that way. So he prevented me from getting the second scoring unit in. You can see there, but I was able to get that one scoring unit in, and I had to sacrifice the Blade Dancers to make that move work. But I evacuated the BSB, and I think I probably, looking back, I think I could have been a little cuter with those archers, maybe moving up a couple turns earlier to try to prevent him from getting in. But I think I was worried about the tunnel markers blowing up and potentially screwing me up in some sort of way. But ultimately he got one into my deployment zone and I got one into his. And getting the blood fur and a couple things at the end with all the weapons teams and stuff ended up being a decent point swing for me. So it was
It was an 8 for you, which is against an orange matchup, which I agree on your prediction. It's not a bad number at all.
Yeah. It was I mean, hard fought 8 points. I was happy, given the matchup, I was happy to come away with 8. It could have been worse. I mean, you know, I think this easily could have been an objective win to him if it hadn't been for those couple of small mistakes that I mentioned there. So yeah. Looking back at the game, what do you think? Could you played it better at some points? You know, I think looking back, I think and this is definitely hindsight 2020, I was happy with the Wild Riders play on the right. I think they did what I needed them to do, which was to distract at least one scoring unit from the objective. I think that I wish that I'd had the Avatar further over to the left in the beginning, because what ended up happening was that I just couldn't get him out of line of sight of that cannon fast enough, basically. Yeah,
makes
sense.
That
was what did him in.
And you did push him. You pushed him turn 1 pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, it's like there was multiple turns there where I was like, he's like an inch too far out to be able to get out of the cannon's line of sight. And that ended up being the difference maker. I think he could have survived. And that's a 900, almost a 900 point swing if he sticks around. So I think that was a big deal.
Yeah, and that's basically his only target with that cannon.
Yeah, and that I mean, we'll get to it at the end of the tournament, but that was one thing looking back. The fact that he's just the standout target for so many things that are designed to kill him was tough, and you'll see how that works out. But that was one thing. The other thing, you know, obviously, I think it could have been a different game if the Chilling Howl, if I'd had access to that spell.
Yeah.
Because that just makes a huge difference in the dispel prioritization. You know, like you saw in turn 1, he prioritized stopping it and let off Unity. You know, letting off Unity on those big blocks is a huge deal. All of a sudden, the bunker becomes vulnerable. So I can't stress enough how that, you know, and it wasn't even it was a It was a triple six, so I had the 3 dice wounding on 4s, right?
4 dice wounding on 4s, yeah.
4 dice, yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
4 dice wounding on 4, and unfortunately I rolled 3 4-ups. Anyways, just that one had a big impact. But otherwise, I think I probably could have maybe played the objective a little smarter. I probably shouldn't have been in the position where like I needed that mistake from my opponent. Especially after I did such good work on those Praetorians early. I think I could have used the Forest Guard and the Blade Dancers and really pushed into that gap. But again, you can see where those tunnel markers are. I was just afraid of,
those would totally hurt you. Yeah,
going off, and all of a sudden, like, my game's over, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that, and it actually wouldn't have worked out. But yeah, no. Overall, I'm pretty happy with 8 out of this matchup.
Definitely. Well, that was a super interesting game, so thank you. But we will get into the rest of your Masters game, but I'll also be doing my 5 games in the Gemini. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.